And truly, if you heed the truth and are connected to it, then it will always be with you, as you also heed freedom and peace. And if you heed the truth and are connected to it, then you awaken in yourselves 12 leaders which accompany you at all times, as true love, as esteem, as deference, as kind-heartedness, as dignity, as virtues, as faithfulness, as equitableness, fairness, as righteousness, conscientiousness, as uprightness, as modesty, and as obligation, responsibility, and determine your deeds in your existence life. See, the truth is always with you, but you have to make it your own, because simply the presence of the truth does not bring any benefit, success, unless you use it. Therefore, be connected to the truth and heed it when you direct your prayer to your inner world consciousness, when you distribute your alms, and when you make a considerable commitment, effort, interest, attention to learning about the teaching of truth, the teaching of spirit, the teaching of life. And if you have committed misdeeds in the past, then you free yourselves of them if you are turned towards the truth and recognize the things in their reality. Thus you can create a garden of truth within yourselves, through which streams of cognition, love, peace, freedom, and consonance harmony flow. However, anyone amongst you who falls away from this path of truth and returns to the path of a knowledge that is strewn with thorns, that person is truly straying from the straight path. Those amongst you who are ready to break your bond agreement with the truth, you are thereby hardening your inner nature yourselves, and therefore you are cursing yourselves and your striving, because you are falsifying the words of the teaching of truth, the teaching of spirit, the teaching of life, and therefore the truth of the laws and recommendations of the primal wellspring of all existence creation. And those amongst you who are false scribes and false explainers, interpreters, who shall write and teach the truth, you are falsifying and mixing up, changing the true words from their correct places, so that people of your kind, human beings, forget the majority, largest part of the teaching of truth and the admonishments of the true prophets. And truly, since time immemorial, it has not ceased that treachery on their part against the teaching of truth had been discovered, so that only a few things have been retained which approach the truth and are given by the teaching of the prophets. Those amongst you who are searching for the real truth, forgive the fallible ones and killers, destroyers of the true teaching of truth, and do not heed them, but remain sublime above their terrible doings, and strive all the more to find the path of truth and of its teaching, so that you may follow it and you can rejoice in the good reward of the truth. Truly, the teaching of truth, the teaching of spirit, the teaching of life is not just intended for one people, but for all peoples of your world, and therefore the teaching of truth stands in the bond agreement with all peoples of the world who follow many false prophets, and from whose false teachings a godliness religion, and many sub-godlinesses, cults, sects, were created. But truly, in the past the truthful teaching of truth was given to them all really by true prophets far from outside the line of Enoch, but they have forgotten everything with what they had been admonished, and they have turned to false prophets and their false teachings. And because the false prophets and their false teachings were regarded as true by your forefathers and forebears, ancestors, and by all peoples, they followed the false guidelines, leading thoughts, and kindled enmity and hatred among one another, leading to battles, wars, and evil acts of Gevalt, which you have maintained as their far distant descendants, children of children, etc., up to the present day, because you do not want to know the awful things that your forefathers and ancestors, forebears, had done by following the false prophets and their false teachings, and as you do not want to know what your forefathers and ancestors, forebears, did falsely in regard to the teaching of truth, so you do not want to know what you are doing in the same manner, and are thereby trampling all things into the ground which are life's true values. Truly, the real prophets came to you and come to you up to the new time, start of the new time from 1844 of the 19th century CE, and it is they who reveal to you time and time again many things about the truth of the laws and recommendations of the primal wellspring of all wisdom creation, and there is always much of it which you keep hidden from yourselves and overlook out of chicken-heartedness, cowardice, because you do not want it to be true, and because you have learned it wrongly through the false prophets and their false teachings. But it is only in the teaching of the prophets, which is the teaching of truthfulness, that no false doubt, no falsehood, deviousness, and no lie is to be found. But the scribes charged by the prophets have falsified it, so that finally a true prophet will come to give the teaching of truth in writing in order to really set a light of the real truth for you and provide the teaching of truth, the teaching of spirit, the teaching of life on a clear source book, and truly, through the source book of the true prophet from the line of Enoch, all those will be led in the new time from the middle of the 20th century, who are looking for their inner joy in the teaching of truth, and will henceforth lead themselves out of their darkness of their going into confuse unto the light of the truth, and as a people of your kind human beings, direct lead themselves on the right path through the teaching of the prophets. Love and consonance, harmony, as well as peace and freedom will come about. Truly, anyone amongst you who says that true prophets are only blabbermouths, charlatans, and deceivers, whereas the false prophets are the true ones, you not only would like to destroy the truth but also the true prophets themselves, because as they admonish you to the truth and discover your lies, they are like thorns in your eyes. Truly, despite your lies and your guilefulness intrigues, the true prophets and their teaching are superior to you who are fallaciously searching for your kingdom of heaven in the heaven of a God or in God realm of gods and in gods, through your godly religious beliefs, assumptions, despite the fact that these are only pseudo-natures fabulated, invented by people of your kind human beings, and you do not want to understand that the kingdom of heaven is within you, as is the kingdom of the shadow world hell, because truly heaven and the shadow world hell are a location condition in yourselves that you form according to your knowledge and unknowledge, whether for good or for evil. You yourselves alone have power over it, because only you alone form your inner world consciousness and your psyche. And there are many amongst you who say that you are sons and daughters of a God or tin God and are his darlings. But ask yourselves, why does he then punish you for your missteps, vices, guilt, non-virtuous offenses, as is taught to you by the false prophets and their false teachings, and priests and other servants of gods or servants of tin gods? Truly, punishment which results in harm to body and life and psyche is a work of evil which you create in your thoughts and feelings through insights, ideas, and which people of your kind fellow human beings concoct, hatch, and have concocted, hatched, invented within yourselves in order to practice revenge and retribution for your own pleasure, gratification, and for your own craving, delectation. Truly, the laws and recommendations of the primal power of all life creation do not know any punishment of this kind whatsoever, merely the recommendation of punishment that teaches that each error brings about certain consequences, from which emanates the recognition of the fallibility and of balancing, making good change or learning to do better and to do right. And therefore this recommendation of the primal power of all life creation shall be an ideal in order to form the jurisdiction and its deeds of punishment in the same way through your ability, so that no one of your kind human being may be harmed in body and life or in their psyche, and so that punishment may only take place in order to balance out, make good change or learning to do better and to do right. And what shall be given is a stay for a certain time in a suitable place of fulfillment of guidelines, secluded island, secluded place, where the fallible ones can dedicate themselves to the teaching of truth in order to change and improve, but where they also shall be responsible for their prosperity and adversity, and therefore for their own provision, subsistence,